משטרה, צה"ל! מישהו שיכול לתת לנו סימן חיים? יש פה הרוגים, כולם הרוגים? כל הבמה הרוגים.
Shalom, friends. My name is Eliezer Margalit, and welcome to Red, White, and Jew, a commentary and storytelling channel where we deep dive into current events and topics important to Jews worldwide. Thank you for tuning in to Faces of Nova, a segment in a larger series titled Faces of October 7th. On October 7th, 2023, Hamas terrorists, assisted by Palestinian civilian mobs, breached multiple sections of the Israel-Gaza border and began a simultaneous wave of assaults on civilian communities and military posts, engaging in unfathomable acts of murder, torture, and sexual violence. Many Israelis now refer to this day as the Black Shabbat. One of the deadliest sites of mass murder in the October 7th massacre occurred at the Nova Festival, a psychedelic trance rave where 364 people were murdered and 40 taken hostage, plus hundreds injured. I first heard about the attacks during a midnight trip to the ER for severe chest pain, the ominous setting adding to the horror I felt as I read article after article. My last visit to Israel was in this region, and I even stayed at a kibbutz I would later discover was one of the massacre sites. My heart was broken, to say the least. One of the first images I saw came from the Nova Festival, where a young woman with long brunette hair in a black rave outfit is seated on the festival grounds with a severe leg injury, where it appeared she was receiving medical attention. The expression of fear and uncertainty etched into her eyes touched my soul and haunted me. I wondered who she was, what her story was, and ultimately, what happened after the photo was taken. She was identified as 25-year-old Shani Gabay. In the weeks following the attack, it was unclear what had happened to her. Her family believed she was among the 251 hostages abducted to Gaza. But when a charred crescent-shaped necklace was discovered among the destruction at the rave site, the truth came to light. For this first video in the series, we will deep dive into the harrowing story of Shani Gabay, but we will also get to know who she was in life. One of the overlooked aspects of mass casualty events like this is how the identities of the victims become lost in a faceless number. Additionally, the politics surrounding the Israel-Hamas war has resulted in a disgusting dehumanization campaign of the victims. I am just one person, but felt compelled to do what I could to restore some humanity to the victims by bringing their faces, stories, and personalities to light. Before we begin, I want to express my most heartfelt gratitude to Aviel and Nitzan Gabay, who gave me their blessing to tell their sister's story on my channel. So without further ado, this is the story of Shani Gabay. Shani Gabay was born on November 29, 1997 in the northern Israeli town of Yokneam. Shani's magnetic personality and zest for life never went unnoticed. Even in a room full of strangers, she quickly became the center of attention, filling every room with radiance and energy. An avid traveler, Shani frequently expanded her mental horizons by discovering new cultures. She even loved to travel on her own, using this time away from her busy life to reflect and discover herself, while making new friends along the way. A woman of great depth, Shani cared passionately about environmental causes and animals. She participated in beach cleanups, volunteered for animal rescue initiatives, where she helped cats and dogs find foster families and adoption. She was a dog mom to her beloved Alpha, whom she loved and cared for like a young child. Her robust social life was complemented by her professional success. She recently graduated from law school with honors and had big ambitions. In her 25 years of life, she experienced and accomplished so much. Her future was bright and full of promise. Her mother wrote the following on her daughter. She lived by her constant slogan, "No time for drama." This was her way of life. She didn't care how much money she had in the bank, or when she needed to go to sleep because she had to get up early for work. Shani was purely interested in one thing, enjoying life. She took advantage of every minute, flew to every place she wanted, went out non-stop, went to the beach every weekend, and simply did what she felt like. 2023 was a bustling year for Shani. Her Instagram feed highlighted her trips to Costa Rica and Greece earlier in the year. This brings us to that fateful October weekend. October 6th, 2023 was the last day of the Jewish Harvest Festival of Sukkot and the first day of the Supernova Sukkot gathering. The festival not only coincided with Sukkot, but the celebration of Simchat Torah on October 7th, a Jewish holiday which marks the end of the Torah reading cycle with celebration and dance. Some 2,500 Israelis gathered at the festival grounds near the rural town of Rayim. The rave was produced by an organizer referred to as Nova, or Tribe of Nova, and originally began in Bahia, Brazil, in the year 2000. The Nova Festival was popular amongst Israelis in the rave scene, but this was the first time it was held in Israel. The festival consisted of 3 stages, a bar for food and drink, and a zone where many attendees pitched tents to camp for the celebratory weekend. There was a tent dedicated to artistic expression, where attendees could take a break from dancing and freely express their creativity. The organizers also included an environmental team, who ensured the party was carried out in a way which minimized harm to the surrounding Negev desert. The occasion was billed as a celebration of friendship, love, and infinite freedom. The joy, connection, and energy is palpable in the videos and images taken on day 1 of the festival. In just a matter of hours, everything would change. While Shani tended to her responsibilities, the festival goers danced into the early morning hours. When Shani's shift ended at 5:30 a.m., she met with 2 friends she had known since childhood, Ben and Gali, a couple who were recently engaged in Italy. October 7th is Ben's birthday, and to mark the special day, the 3 friends met to watch the sunrise, along with other festival goers. Not long after the rays of the sun peeked over the horizon, there was something else in the sky. A barrage of rockets coming from the west, the direction of Gaza. It is important to know this is a frequent occurrence in Israel, especially in the Negev region. Rocket attacks come and go and are usually intercepted by Israel's Iron Dome, an advanced mobile missile defense system. One survivor remarked that some people under the influence of psychedelics believed the rockets to be fireworks. But the number of rockets would only intensify and began to strike very close to the festival grounds. It would soon be apparent that something very sinister was taking shape. At 6:29 a.m., the music came to an abrupt end and festival security announced that the party was over and it was time to evacuate. At 6:47 a.m., Michal Gabay, Shani's mother, received a voice message from her daughter. Shani describes the unusual severity of the missile attack and says there are so many rockets she can feel the ground shaking beneath her feet. Some of the partygoers remain unfazed, expecting the attack to end soon, but Shani, Ben, and Gali waste no time getting into Shani's car and heading north on Route 232 towards home. Those who remained had no way of knowing that there was a border breach, and the rocket barrage was the least of their concerns. Soon after the three friends left, Hamas terrorists, armed with assault rifles, RPGs, grenades, and knives, discovered the party. They blocked all roads exiting the festival, forcing attendees to scatter across the surrounding fields, where they were hunted and executed. Festival goers who attempted to flee by car encountered terrorists on the open road who fired at them from point-blank range. Around 7 a.m., Shani, Ben, and Gali reach a junction near a kibbutz called Alumim and are waved down by a policeman who tells them, due to the amount of rockets, it is too dangerous to proceed, and urged them to take refuge in the Alumim bomb shelter, also called a migunit in Hebrew. The small concrete structure had one way in and one way out, and was nearly filled to capacity as more and more people fleeing the party sought shelter. Survivor Noam Cohen captured multiple videos from the back of the migunit. This video shows the moments before the terrorists descended upon the shelter and turned it into a death trap. Noam also recorded the brutal aftermath in several disturbing videos, segments of which are too graphic to share on this platform.
We got inside the shelter, and after a few minutes, we got hit on the shelter with RPG. Everyone that was in the entry that couldn't fit in, they got shot and killed. They just throw a grenade inside the shelter. I see like huge explosion, and people were exploding in front of my face, and people tried to get out because they saw a grenade, and they shoot whoever they tried to get out. I think we were like 30 people inside this shelter and outside of it, and I think only 5 or 6 were getting from it alive.
Shani called her mother again at 7:15 a.m. from inside the migunit and described the horrific situation she was in. Ben and Gali both lost consciousness, and it appeared that her childhood friends were no longer alive. Shielded by the injured and the dead, Shani only suffered minor cuts and bruises, but she now faced an impossible decision. Does she run outside and risk being shot, or should she remain inside and risk another onslaught of grenades and bullets? Ultimately, she made the brave decision to flee, despite still hearing the voices of the terrorists outside. While running, the gunmen opened fire. Multiple bullets strike her left leg and foot, but she is able to reach her car and drive south back towards the direction of the festival. The sounds of gunshots and explosions came from every direction, and the magnitude of the attack was more apparent at this point in time. Shani tells her mother there are terrorists everywhere. At 7:47 a.m., Shani encounters a group of young people fleeing the festival. They pull Shani out of the vehicle, a moment captured in this video. With the limited resources available, they provided her with first aid. Yoni Diller, one of the men in this group, attributed his survival to encountering Shani. Had they not crossed paths, the group would have continued down the same deadly route taken by Shani, Ben, and Gali earlier.
As I got closer, I see this girl trying to break the car. We open the door, she slides out. We see she was shot on her left, top of her left knee, on her foot. We help her out. Her name is Shani Gabay. We try to help her out. We block her wound. We tell her everything's gonna be fine. She was so scared for her life, she couldn't even show emotions. She couldn't even cry. She was just like shaking. We just took care of her as much as we could. The ambulance was already on its way. Seeing Shani coming from the south, shot, kind of saved our life because we understood that there's danger coming from the south area as well.
Minutes later, a security guard from the Nova Festival would come across Shani and the others. The gunshot wounds limit Shani's mobility and her ability to continue with the group on foot. The security guard offered to drive her back to the festival's safe zone, where an ambulance is transporting the injured to the nearby Soroka hospital for medical treatment. Shani and the guard return to the festival grounds, which has transformed into a war zone. The area is littered with bodies, abandoned cars and campsites. Some sections of the party were set on fire, and the terrorists are still in the area. The volume of injured is so immense. The medics and police prioritize those in more critical condition, so Shani was made to wait for the next evacuation. But in the meantime, she was given a dose of morphine to ease the pain of her injuries. While she patiently waited her turn, the distant sounds of gunshots came closer. After the Hamas gunmen finished their assault on those fleeing in their cars and hunting those who ran into the adjacent fields, they invaded the festival grounds, forcing those in the safe zone to flee. Nimrod Maimon and Liron Barda lift Shani onto their shoulders and carry her with them to the festival's makeshift police outpost, where they join a group in hiding. 2 police officers guarded the group inside, but they are only armed with handguns. While inside, people continue to care for Shani. Michal Ohana and Liam Gallen perform artery compressions on her wounds, once with Michal's scarf and a second time with Shani's belt. More partygoers join the group in the outpost as festival police battle the terrorists outside. Shani can be seen seated against the wall in a video recorded by Michal Ohana. Some of the people continue to talk and she says, "Sheket," Hebrew for quiet. At 8:53 a.m., Shani makes a final call, this time to her brother Eliezer Gabay. She says that there are sounds of war outside of the police outpost. Aviel tried to comfort his little sister, telling her to breathe and keep calm. He also informs her their father Yaakov is driving from Yokneam to Raim to rescue her, but the commute is a 3-hour trip, and Shani expresses that she does not feel safe. As the call disconnects, Aviel hears gunfire erupt in the background. By 9 a.m., the terrorists are dangerously close to the police outpost. Realizing it's only a matter of time before they are discovered, one of the police officers shouts, "Today is Simchat Torah. Whoever wants to survive, pray hard and start running." Shani is unable to run, but she is not abandoned. In a courageous act of selflessness, 4 women help her escape. Noam Shalom, Lior Atun, Moria or Swaisa, and Karin Jurno make sure that she is not left behind. The 5 women reach an abandoned ambulance parked several hundred feet away from the police outpost, where they take cover. At 9:12 a.m., Noam Shalom records a final video of the group. She is seen in an earlier video dancing in one of the most widely circulated videos of the start of the attack. But this video is much more bleak in nature. Shani is barely visible, but can be seen laying down inside the ambulance alongside another woman. Only armed with handguns, it wasn't long before the police officers were overpowered and the terrorists seized control of the entire party area. Shani, Noam, Lior, Karin, and Moria hid inside the ambulance and are soon joined by 15 other people. When there is no more room inside, several people hid underneath. Then at 9:25 a.m., the terrorists fixed their attention on the emergency vehicle. Those hiding underneath were shot at. Then the terrorists threw multiple grenades inside, before launching an RPG and completely incinerating the ambulance. This was how 25-year-old Shani Gabay lost her life. Only several minutes later, at 9:30 a.m., Shani's father Yaakov arrived to Raim to rescue his daughter. As he searched the area still overrun by terrorists, he saw the burning ambulance but did not immediately understand its significance. As he searched, Yaakov saved numerous people and drove them to safety. He stayed in Raim for 5 days and was joined by Aviel. Together they examined the bodies in hopes of identifying their beloved Shani. In spite of their extensive search efforts, they were unable to locate any remains, and with no further communication or signs of life, the family concluded she was one of 251 hostages abducted to Gaza. The Gabay family became deeply involved with the Hostage and Missing Families Forum. For weeks, they endured the psychological torment of wondering what Shani was going through in captivity. Before we continue, let's acknowledge the fates of some of the people we met throughout this story. Shani's childhood friends Ben and Gali were in fact not deceased as she believed. Both of them survived the attack on the Alumim Migunit, and in a strange coincidence, the couple both lost their right leg below the knee. Liron Barda, one of the people who carried Shani to the police outpost, did not survive the attack. Liron was working the festival as the bartending manager. She refused to leave and instead stayed on site to care for the injured. Liam Gallen, the man who helped create a tourniquet to stop Shani's bleeding, was among those lost in the massacre. Noam Shalom, Lior Atun, Moria Or Swaisa, and Karin Jurno, the women who helped Shani flee the outpost, died alongside her in the Nova ambulance. Of the 20 people who hid in the Nova ambulance, only 2 survived. 48 days later, on November 23rd, the Gabay family answered their front door to a social worker, a doctor, and military officials, and immediately braced for bad news. It was explained that about a month after the October 7th Hamas massacre, a charred crescent-shaped necklace was discovered amongst the destruction at the Nova Festival grounds. When the necklace was tested, it revealed a high concentration of Shani's DNA and a small amount of DNA from another woman who was killed in the Nova ambulance. The woman's family granted investigators permission to exhume her body. The charred remains were placed through a CT scan and 2 skulls were visible. A dentist was able to definitively match the teeth to Shani's dental records. As the bodies of Shani and the other woman burned in the Nova ambulance, they became attached to one another and were mistakenly buried as one. In an interview with the Jewish Chronicle, Aviel Gabay would say, "We feel there was a colossal failure. I know they did difficult work and saw horrors that make it hard to sleep. And yet when burying a body, I expect there to be not 100%, but 1,000,000% certainty that you know who is being buried. It is unacceptable that they buried a burnt body and a dentist didn't conduct an elementary check. Had the necklace not been found, we would have continued to believe she was kidnapped and missing." On November 29th, the Gabay family concluded Shani's Shiva, the Jewish period of mourning, on the day she would have turned 26 years old. Even after her tragic passing, Shani's light continues to be a catalyst for positivity. A non-profit called Shani's String was established to memorialize her legacy by creating a cascade of good deeds for the sake of the world she loved so much. The name was inspired from a passage in King Solomon's Song of Songs where it is written, "Your lips are like a crimson thread, your mouth is lovely, your brow behind your veil gleams like a pomegranate split open." The crimson thread refers to a guiding idea which underlies all of creation. The crimson thread which guided Shani's life was one of giving back and caring for others, for the environment, for the animals whose lives she changed, and for a better world. Shani's String has already given back so much to the community in the year following her passing and will continue to do so. Some of these good deeds have included renovating the Yokneam Dog Park, where Shani spent many hours with Alpha. They also work to support animal rescue organizations. Shani's string also works with nature and national park authorities to organize beach cleanup days and distributes mobile ashtrays on beaches and at nature reserves in the spirit of nature conservation. They have also established memorial sites at places Shani loved to visit, such as the Jezreel Valley, the Valley of Peace, and the Lower Galilee. Another project called Shani's Necklace was created by her friend Noah, a professional jeweler. Shani had originally purchased the crescent necklace from Noah and wore it until the very end on the Black Shabbat. All proceeds from the sales of these crescent necklaces will go towards memorial initiatives in her honor. May the memory of Shani Gabay forever be a blessing. If you are interested in donating to Shani's string or purchasing a necklace, links will be provided in the description. Please subscribe for more videos. This series, Faces of October 7th, will continue, along with other Jewish and Israel-related commentary and topics. Please continue to pray for the hostages and for peace in the region. Until next time, Shabbat Shalom.